In 2021, short sellers got burned. Companies like Citron Research as well as Melvin Capital were some of the big names in the news who are famous short sellers that got burned one way or another. And today, one of our beloved companies on this channel, Well Health Technologies, was a target of a short report. The report was filed by a company called Grizzly Research, and honestly, they don't even provide any names of the people who did the research. So it looks like they're some anonymous firm. First off, when we look at this short report, let me pull up the legal disclaimer. So I'm going to read this one line that you should know. As of the publication date of this report, Grizzly Research, possibly along with or through our members, partners, affiliates, employees, and or consultants, along with our clients as well, and or investors, has a direct or indirect short position in the stock, and or options, swaps, and other derivatives related to one or more of these securities of the company covered herein, and therefore stands to realize significant gain in the event that the price of Well's stock declines. Therefore, use Grizzly's research at your own risk. You should do your own research and due diligence before making any investment decisions with respect to the securities covered herein. So clearly this report, it was used to tank Well's stock. And they were trying to grapple at every small little thing and turn it into a big deal, saying that Well Health is basically a toxic roll-up and the stock should be about 57% lower than what it currently is. And on Friday, we saw the results of this. Well stock dropped from $7 all the way to $6.60. Not sure how much these short sellers made and if they ended up covering the short positions or not, but Well stock ended up on the day at $6.95. So pretty much it came back and didn't lose too much after the short little dip in the stock. And if you bought the dip, I guess you're kind of sitting there laughing and saying, thanks for the short report and thanks for getting me a cheaper price on Well Health Technology stock. But we don't really know what the effects are going to be in the coming weeks. Maybe there's going to be more selling of the stock because of this report. I don't know, but personally, I don't plan to sell Well Health Technology stock based off this report. They believe that Well Health and the management team did not do a good job or due diligence when acquiring some of their companies. Notice it's only some of their companies. They highlight maybe 4 or 5 of the companies where they have problems with. However, Well Health Technologies has made tons of acquisitions beyond these 4 or 5. Probably somewhere in the order of 20 acquisitions since they started the company or started doing acquisitions in 2017. So some of the main points that they make in this report is that the CEO neglects to discuss a crucial aspect of his famed divestiture to a Silicon Valley buyer. So that's talking about TIO Networks and how he sold his company to PayPal. And everyone thought he was a hero for doing that, but there were things that people did not really look into afterwards, where there were some problems with the source code or security of the data that TIO Networks had, and PayPal ultimately shut that company down. I don't really have too much to say on this because all I've heard is what's public information that PayPal ended up shutting down TIO Networks. But I will be having an interview with the CEO of Well Health where I hope to flesh out a few more of these details to get a better picture of what went down. The next point that they make is Well believes their largest ever acquisition, CRH Medical, is a highly problematic reflection that Well's hype train is over. So they think that the CRH Medical acquisition, there's a lot of problems with that because CRH lost their largest customer who was 20% of EBITDA. So this 20% customer is actually leaving, I believe, later on in 2021 in the third quarter. So still in Q1, Q2, and Q3, the revenue from this company should still be present in CRH's reports. But one thing that Grizzly forgot to mention is that CRH did state that they're still in talks with this customer, trying to figure out ways or some sort of agreement to bring them back. And CRH is finding other ways to be able to increase the revenue through acquisitions or other customer acquisitions. So I don't believe that all hope is lost for CRH. And yes, sometimes customers or sometimes companies lose their largest customer. Another point they make is Well paid a 300% premium for Adracare, which this company apparently cooked their books in the past. And I'll dive into that a little bit more in detail because at this point I was able to do a lot more research into and figure out what's going on, and I can prove that Grizzly Research actually skewed their position on this piece of news and turned it into some super negative FUD piece, and more so than it should be. There are a few other points in this research report that you should check out if you're a well-health investor. I do believe it's always healthy to have both an upside for the company as well as knowing some of the risks in some of the bearish cases. This kind of keeps us as investors, in check and not just super hyped about a company or super down about a company. We should have a healthy view and understand the risks and know or be able to face the facts that, there are some skeletons in the closets for every single company, and we should be aware of them because ultimately we as investors are assessing a risk behind a company when we're investing it. The stock price, there's always a probability that it's going to go up and a probability that it's going to go down as well. And it's ultimately the market or all the buyers and sellers in the stock market that dictate where the price is going to go. All the facts and all the rumors that are presented are just to help us to create some sort of story behind the company to see whether it's probable that the company's stock price will go up from here or go down from here in a specific time frame. And again, everyone has a different time frame. Some investors are only looking for gains within 2 to 3 months. Others have a longer time horizon, maybe 1 to 5 years. And there's even longer investors out there who are hoping for a 20 or 30-year timeline where they hold a company. I myself am hoping to hold WellHealth Technologies for at least 5 to 10 years. So I'm in the longer investor term type of camp. And that's where I'm coming from and my point of view is on WellHealth Technologies. So now I'm just going to dive into Adracare because I did some research into that and kind of show you how Grizzly Research can really twist things that are out in the news. Now looking into Adracare, I did see some reports or news articles that Grizzly Research looked into. And yes, Adracare used to be called Orbcare, and this was in 2018. Orbcare was raising some money, some seed money, in order to use to fuel their development. And they raised about $2 million. There's some shady things that happened with Orbcare. They actually decided to raise money and only announced that they raised this money maybe about 4 to 6 months later. But all you need to know from this is the company did do some white lying about their financing, which is a bit of a sketchy thing. However, note that the company was actually under the founder, Manny Abraham, and he no longer is the CEO of the company. The CEO of the company right now is Olivier Ginner. And Olivier Ginner is from an investment firm that made a seed investment into Orbcare. And the seed investment firm is iGain. Once iGain made an investment into Orbcare, there was a relationship formed, and actually one of the researchers from iGain decided to hop over to Orbcare to become the chief operating officer. His role didn't yet start until the summer of 2019, but prior to that, he was doing some research into the company and just getting to know it, and once looking at their financials, he realized there were a lot of red flags. The company indeed did cook their books. One example of this is that they reported revenues of $330,000, whereas the company actually only realized $150,000 of that, and the rest of the money was actually coming from potential revenues from customers that they were in talks with. So this definitely did mislead some of their seed investors. So after Ginner raised this alarm bell, he also found some other skeletons in the closet around this company, where the company had a lot of outstanding debt owed to the CRA, or the Canada Revenue Agency. They also owed some other employees and had some other debt obligations, and most of the $2 million of seed funding was probably spent by the time the company, or by the time that Ginner was about to start as CEO. We don't actually have the numbers behind this, but this is just a speculation based on the amount of debt that they had. So this company, all that you know is it was in a lot of trouble and they had a lot of cookbooks under Manny Abraham. And Manny Abraham in an article stated that he was going through a lot of family things and things at home, so he wasn't able to give the attention that he should have to his financials. And also in his defense, he's also not a finance guy, he's a product guy. And the CEO role just fell on him because he was the founder of the company. He's not a guy who's well versed in accounting, and honestly, I wouldn't exactly fault him for having the books slightly faulty. I will fault him for lying to investors saying that they had more revenue than they actually did have, but I think for the other accounting practices, I'll kind of give him a pass here, because I myself have been in my own startup before, and I know that the CRA is very confusing, and the last thing that you want to do as a startup founder, is to hire an accountant because you're going to be paying like 25 grand at least for them to do your books. And as a company that's only earning around $150,000, that's going to put you under fairly quickly if you have to maintain or continue to pay a salary for a bookkeeper as well as pay for these audits. But now with Ginner as the CEO, I believe that the company is in a lot better hands. Clearly this guy knew what he was doing and he was able to identify there were problems in the company. And I believe that he's turned the company around in the 1 year between the bankruptcy of the company and where they had cookbooks to where Well Health Technologies bought the company. The company completely rebranded. It's unsure where all the debt went. However, it was kind of stated by iGain that part of the resources or a lot of the assets from OrbCare were ported over to a new corporation called Adracare, but not all the debt was ported over. That is kind of what I read into it, so take that with a grain of salt. But I don't believe all the debt was ported over, and you can kind of search some articles, which I'll link in the description down below. But at the end of the day, Grizzly Research is really trying to discount Adracare for their faulty accounting before, under a CEO who was not really financially equipped to do the job. Now that they have a new CEO, there's no funny business going on, at least to my knowledge or to the public's knowledge. But one thing that we can know is that the CEO currently has integrity because he was willing to raise those red flags. So in a way, I would see that as a positive thing for Adracare. And it's clear that Grizzly Research failed to disclose this because that wouldn't really fit with the narrative of the report. There are obviously a lot of other points that Grizzly Research has made and I've not covered in this video, but if you guys want to discuss more about this or have done your own research, feel free to join my free Discord group down below. And we can discuss on the Well Health channel if you guys find any more things related to CRH or Source 44 or other points that Grizzly Research made in the report. So I personally am taking this report, this short report, with a grain of salt. It's good to know that there are people scrutinizing what Well Health has done, and that will only improve just what Well Health reports in the future. Because once you have a short seller attack you, you realize as a company you want to make your investors feel comfortable with their position. So Well Health in the future is probably going to address some of these short concerns in their earnings report, as well as just be more prudent with the reporting and give more transparency behind the deals that they make. Or at least that's what I hope for as an investor. As I mentioned, or possibly mentioned earlier in the video, I will be doing an interview with Hamad somewhere later on this week. If you guys have any questions for him and want me to ask him, let me know in the comments down below, or better yet, drop those in the Discord group. If you guys got any value out of this, or it kind of helped you digest the short report, remember to leave a like down below. As well as subscribe, hit that notification bell if you guys are new here and are interested in Well Health Technologies, as I will continue to cover this company. If you guys want to check out 2 other videos on Well Health Technologies, they're right up here. If you're there, I'll see you there. If not, keep up the grind and have a great day.